we met with the FAF. We've had several dialogues with Jeff Dearmeyer, the new chairman of FAF, and he's coming to Nashville here in a couple of weeks to do some one-on-one meetings with us in Nashville. So those relationships are really critical. And of course, we can't forget our very important relationship with the AICPA.
The Center for Audit Quality were recently in Nashville, were they not?
They were.
And we're working closely with them, trying to do what we can to work together in the same direction.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to AICPA just a second.
You do that.
Because at this conference, you know, you're going to hear some things where we disagree with the AICPA. But I just have to tell you, as the senior staff of NASBA, I can tell you that our staff and our volunteers work on a day-to-day basis with AICPA, and probably shame on us if we agreed on everything. But that doesn't mean the relationship is not important, and that when we disagree, I think both sides have a responsibility to articulate with passion those differences. So I want to put that out there. There's going to be some things we agree on at this conference, but some things we do not agree on.
Thank you, Ken. You know, working with these outside groups, and one that maybe, I don't think we really overlooked it, but we're going to formalize something, and it's a new committee, State-Society Relationship Committee that we've recently appointed 8 members to it. Ken, the state societies and their executive directors who we appointed to this committee, they're just so critical to the role that the boards play. If you're ever trying to get legislation passed, you need the support of state societies, don't we?
Well, you know, I mentioned it last night at the reception. You know, the state society directors have been attending our meetings for a long time. You know, they're a part of the NASBA family. But I will tell you, we have never really formalized that relationship, and we think it's important to enter into dialogue to ask the societies how they think we're doing, and how can we work more effectively in making societies and state boards work together on legislation and other important issues that they're doing in their states. Rich Jones is in the audience. Rich is going to be one of the members of that new committee, so we're very excited about it. We'll have our first meeting coming up here in the next couple of months.
Well, let's talk about some specifics, drill down a little bit. What I'm hearing about this International Transcription Service.
Yeah, James, where are you at? Are you in the audience somewhere? Stand up, James. James has this effort up, doing an amazing job. You know, this was something that many of you in this room asked NASBA to take on this responsibility. You know, there are a lot of there's competition out there. There's other agencies, some which do a great job in doing international transcript evaluations. But what you all asked for is, why does not NASBA get into this important arena and provide high quality international transcript evaluations so that you have it coming from a trusted source? Now, when I've been in front of you before, I've said, you know, please give NASBA an opportunity to compete and also offer our services to your international candidates. I am so happy to announce that in less than a year, we are up to 32 jurisdictions. So thank you very much for trusting us and giving us an opportunity to provide this valuable service. I can tell you, your candidates from international locations that are using our service are getting the highest quality, fastest service, and most customer service of anybody out there providing the service.
Another area, Ken, is this National CPE Registry. It seems like every time I attend one of these conferences, I hear about new records being broken, new people being signed up in that.
Yeah, Maria Caldwell's somewhere in our office, our Director of Compliance Service at CLO. Maria, stand up here. So doing a great job. I can tell you, this is important to everyone in this room. I mean, you know, having high quality CPE out there. Many state societies have now joined the registry. The corporate list of companies that belong to our registry now is like the who's who in American industry. So we're so excited by the progress. 1,932 members on the registry right now. That I can tell you that is a goal that almost surpasses. I'm not going to say all surpasses. I'm looking for that 2,000 mark, Maria. You know, that's that next time we get up there. I'd love to be able to say 2,000. Also, I'm going to talk about Center for Public Trust a little bit. You know, that is our ethics arm at NASBA. Alfonso, are you out there somewhere? Alfonso, there he is. You know, Alfonso, not only does he do a lot of things at NASBA, but he serves as president of the Center for Public Trust, and because a lot on Ken's plate this first couple of years, and Alfonso's really done the heavy lifting. But you know, we have really focused on the student chapters. In fact, they will be attending the Eastern Regional, I believe, in Chicago. But when we were talking to you last year, we had 6 student chapters, and we talked about the growth that we wanted to have. I'm happy to report that we have 17 student chapters as of today, and our belief is that next year we'll be at 27. So how about that? That's a lot of progress for the Center Public Press.
You know, the NASBA, what is called the NASBA Report. What's the NASBA Report, Ken?
Well, again, we have been doing the student or the candidate performance handbook for decades. I mean, it's been out there for a long, long time. And as you know, it was a static document. It was something that the information when it came out, it was almost history when it came out. Again, James Suh's group has headed this up, but they have really taken that information, that data, and brought it into some dynamic sources, customized for colleges, states. We're giving you state reports to talk about how your students are doing. So it's an entirely a new process, a new product and service, and it's getting a lot of attention in the world of academia.
They're breaking down results by school now, right?
They are, and you know, as you know, our Vice Chair, Carlos Johnson, has expressed an interest in really ramping up NASBA's nexus and relevance in the world of education. And James has also been a participant of that, and I can tell you that having the data that we have, being able to provide a consistent and valuable and reliable source of information to colleges is sort of getting a foot in the door as we try to get more interactive with the colleges and universities in the United States.
I talked about the motto a little while ago. There's another one just almost like that. What is it? It's promises made, promises kept, right?
Or my version of that we ain't writing checks they can't cash.
Or another way of saying
that's
it.
the Missouri version of that. But you know, that is so important. You know, if we get up in front of you and tell you we're going to do something, you know, it's not about the talk, it's about the walk. You know, we've got to make sure that we fulfill those promises, and we work very hard to make sure that you can cash those checks.
And so this is the focus on relationship with state boards, and what are some of the things that we're doing
Dan, where
there?
are you at, Dan? Dan Dustin, stand up. Dan, I tell you, it has just been, if you haven't met Dan yet, if Dan hasn't visited your state, he will be approaching you, but feel free to approach him as well. You know, when we launched the new office of the State Board of Relations and brought in Dan to be vice president of that office, you know, we wanted to do something different. As these states light up behind you, those are the states that he has visited or is scheduled to visit. So you can see we've covered geographically much of the state, but if your state is not lit up, we want to come see you, and he will be there. But this isn't about NASBA coming to your state board to persuade you to do something that NASBA wants or to sell you some NASBA product. This is about Dan Dustin coming to your state to say, what is it you need? What is it you want? What is it that NASBA can do a better job of fulfilling your needs so that you can be a more relevant and more effective state board of accountancy? So very important, and it's amazing the progress that's been made.
Ken, you know, I've been told you hear about the turnover in board members and executive directors. Talking to Dan the other day, over the last 3 months, 6 new executive directors. So, you know, he's the man.
He is. I got to tell you, and you know what, we're so excited that some of those new executive directors are here. I will tell you that that's another role that Dan plays. I mean, Dan, as you know, served as executive secretary of the New York Board of Accountancy, so he has done some heavy lifting in that area. So if you're a new executive director and you want to, if you have questions, concerns, best practices, whatever, if we can help you in that area, please feel free to reach out to us. But, you know, it's not just executive directors, new board members, a lot of new.
Oh, yeah.
You know, by the way, you know, we had that new board member orientation. Was that room full or what?
Oh, man. We're going to get to that in a minute, though, Ken. I want to talk about legislative support.
All right, let's go there.
John Johnson?
Man, is he doing a great job. You know, those of you in the room that are new board members or new executive directors, we want to make sure you fully understand this new service that NASBA is providing. You know, a couple of years ago, what we always heard was if there's any legislative activity, state boards really did not have the tools or the capability of really being involved in a legislative effort. Well, there's a lot of things going on in legislation. For one of the things that the services that John and his group are providing is that we have software that allows us to monitor all the software in all the states 24/7. Now, what's that mean? That means that if John finds something that he believes could put your board in harm's way or something that he thinks you should be paying attention to, you may well already know about it. But in case you don't, proactively, we will reach out to you and say, you might have a heads up about this bill that's being introduced in your state. But then what do? Once we do that, then we also will provide whatever you need, if you need lobbying, if you need language written, if you need legal interpretation, whatever it is, any type of support that if you need us, if you need expert witnesses, anybody to come into your state, we are going to be there for you in this legislative endeavor. And again, John is a former executive director of the Florida State Board of Accountancy. He was also the legislative person for the Florida Society, and he has been integrated with the legislative folks from state societies all around the country. So again, this is not something we're doing unilaterally. We're working very closely with the state societies, the food group, which is their legislative arm, to make sure we provide a great service.
You know, Ken, I'm not sure whether we invited John to stand up.
Well, we should if I didn't. John, where are you, John Johnson?
He might.
There he is. Hi, John. And if you have legislative, that's the guy to get to know. He will hook you up.
All right, then. Current issues. My area that I really get involved in, professional practice issues. And you'd mentioned where we have a little bit of tension right now, the financial framework that you may have been hearing something about. They're getting close to actually issuing it. It's our understanding that it's intended to be issued here on Monday. We've been monitoring this very closely, obviously, and we've provided feedback to the AICPA about our many concerns on the framework. We're going to have an opportunity to discuss that a little bit more in the breakout sessions.
You know, this is one of those serious issues. I mean, you know, we get along and we agree on most things, but occasionally we disagree. And this is one of those things we want to focus on at this meeting. We want to make sure you understand what we think is going on, and we will have a dialogue about that at the breakout session.
So another area, I wouldn't call it an issue because I think we're working closely with the AICPA and the Uniform Accountancy Act Committee on the definition of a test. And this has always been an area that we want to make sure is tight because this is where CPAs have their franchise, where we can do something that no one else is allowed to do. And it's been fairly simple in the past. It's basically talking about the auditing standards, the SASs, Statements on Auditing Standards. Well, as CPAs and as the economy and the world has changed, we're reporting on a lot of different things these days. So we talk about XBRL tagging, reporting on that greenhouse gas, IT controls, sustainability reports, but it all started with these so-called SAS 70 reports. And they were put into what is called the attestation standards, and that changed the model, didn't it?
It really did, and this is something that, you know, we're looking towards the future. When we met with the AICPA, we're in total agreement on this one, is the fact that the world of a test is going to look different in the future. You know, the use of IT, the reliance on the cloud computing, all the things that are happening. You know, people are out there giving assurances to people that they're relying on that are not CPAs, but they're using AICPA type language. We don't think that's appropriate. We don't think it's a good public protection model, and so we are on the same page. We really like to, and we'll have a discussion about that again.
Yeah, there's questions about independence, and you know, actually later this morning we're going to hear from Ken Odom, chair of our side of the UAA committee, and Sue Coffey on that topic.
And that's going to be an interesting dialogue. But again, we really do agree with that position.
Another topic is compilation services, something that many small firms are very engaged in. It's important to small businesses. Janice Gray, a member of our board.
Right there.
All right. Right behind me, Janice is NASBA's representative on the Accounting and Review Services Committee, or referred to as the ARSC. And she's been representing NASBA for, I think, about a year now. And they are looking at revising the compilation service standards significantly, a result of a relook at non-attest services that the Professional Ethics Executive Committee, that's the ethics arm of the AICPA, that really determined that this was a non-attest service. So they're relooking at independence, what is the appropriate manner of reporting. Again, this issue of are we inviting unlicensed practice in? And so they're getting ready to issue a revision of the SARS standard. And we're going to hear from the ARSC committee chair tomorrow, Chaz McElroy.
Well, again, this is, we've seen kind of where the work is right now. We have some concerns, but we're having a great dialogue with about those concerns, and we expect to get to a good middle ground position.
You can't attend a NASBA conference without hearing something about mobility. And so we're not going to disappoint you. We'll be talking about mobility, won't we? What version?
Let me be really clear, and some of you have already heard me speak to this, but firm mobility is not a new idea. Back when, about 7 years ago, when the first exposure draft came out for mobility, individual mobility and firm mobility were in the same exposure draft. And when we really looked at how we were going to implement that legislative effort, we realized, both sides, the AICP and NASBA, realized that we really weren't ready for firm mobility because of the lack of substantial equivalency between firms. For example, you could have a firm coming in from a state that did not require peer review, but allowed to come into a state that did require peer review. There were firm names issues, there was ownership issues, there was a lot of disparity. Today, the firms around the United States look much closer. Now, you know, one important part of my job, our staff's job, our volunteers' job is that we need to have an ear to the ground, and we know that both in state boards and state societies, there are some concerns about firm mobility. So I want to be really clear on where our position is. We made a promise to state boards that we would implement firm mobility language later, after we finish the individual mobility effort. Now, it's taken a while, but now then we're fulfilling that promise. Again, a promise made is a promise kept. That being said, what does that mean? What we believe is that if some states, and some states have indicated their desire to pass firm mobility, then we believe that we need to have uniform and consistent language in the UAA so states don't pass it in different ways. So, you know, we want to design good firm mobility language that interacts with the rest of the UAA in an appropriate way that doesn't put people in harm's way. So ask the questions you have about that, but again, this is not a strong arm effort. This is an effort to get solid language in the UAAs for those states that want to implement firm mobility, and it's done in a consistent way. And we'll see how that works. Right now, there are already about 6 or 7 states that have passed firm mobility type legislation. We have about 16 or 17 states that essentially allow firm mobility through different processes. Either they currently do not have a firm license requirement, or they've interpreted their law to allow people to come in through mobility and practice without a firm permit. So it isn't unprecedented. It's already occurring in about a third of the states. So again, be prepared to see some language and give us your thoughts. We obviously want to hear your thoughts and opinions as we expose that.
Another area that regulators of accountants are always interested in is holding out. You may not be aware of this, but in Canada, we've had a change in their model. They have always been known to us as chartered accountants. They're now CPAs, aren't they, Ken?
Very quickly, as the provinces adopt it, they're getting more and more of their population will be calling themselves CPAs. Now, these are high-quality chartered accountants, now CPAs in Canada, but will there be public confusion when U.S. CPAs go into Canada, when Canadians come to the United States? There's also Australian CPAs, Japanese CPAs, Chinese. I mean, there's all these different CPAs in a global economy, and we want to make sure as the public protectors of the U.S. accounting world that we are at least considering the risk associated with that use of the title CPA of the United States.
There's a new credential on the block too, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, CGMA, and a lot of folks in this room probably have it. I mean, it's something that we knew about before it was launched in the ICPA. We supported that, but the concern that we have is that some states have language that says you can't use certified in accounting in a title unless you're a CPA. And there is a pathway for non-CPAs to get that credential. And we've expressed our concern about that. We're still in discussions about it, but you know, we did a survey of state boards, and a significant number of you all responded to us that you would not allow that credential to be used in your state unless it was being used by a CPA. So that is your interpretation, and we concur with that interpretation. So we just want to make sure that we're having a dialogue about it and we don't put some CPA in harm's way.
Well, Ken, you know, we went through a strategic planning exercise last year, and at your tables, you all have this little booklet we handed out at the annual meeting as well. We're going to continue handing this out because of the importance of what Mark Harris really launched last year, and that was a comprehensive planning exercise to really get the volunteer as well as the staff side on the same page. This wasn't a one-time shot, was it?
No, and it's not nearly done. Ed Barnicott, our Vice President of Strategic Planning. Ed, could you stand up, please? Ed is responsible for getting, if you have any questions, please go to Ed. I can tell you that this little brochure is not our strategic plan. Our binders are getting pretty thick back at NASBA headquarters, but here's what we're doing right now. Ed is leading the effort to integrate every product, service, mission, all the work that we do, and how does it align itself with the strategic plan. In the past, I've heard criticism of NASBA saying, where'd you all come up with this idea, or how these things work? Well, if we're going to be your trusted collective voice, if we're going to represent a consensus of the states, we really need to make sure that anything that we're doing fits the sweet spot of NASBA, that literally we know that we're doing things that align itself with the mission and the strategic plan. So we're going through, Ed is going through in every single business bucket, silo, anything you want to call it within NASBA, we are having the directors of those buckets align themselves with and articulate how they are fulfilling the mission and the strategic plan of NASBA. So it's quite an effort. It's really changing the organization.
You know, Ken, as chairman of the NASBA board, I've insisted that we have this little pamphlet at each one of our meetings, and that we review it, and that we're on the same page that staff. So,
you know, Mark Harris sitting in the audience. This was launched on Mark's watch, and I'm sure you're thrilled to see that it's really blooming out to what you had dreamed about.
All right. Well, hey, at the annual meeting, another thing that happened is I had my initial, and call it an inaugural speech where I challenged you all to get involved with NASBA. And, you know, and I also talked about using the time wisely, because we only have a certain period of time that we're giving the opportunity to serve. And you mentioned the new members that were here yesterday.
I mentioned it a little early, I think, actually.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah.
That orientation thing that we had yesterday, we could hardly move in the room.
I
There
was
were
just
so many
anxious to introduce these folks. So maybe we have those people stand
We're
up?
going to do that right now. So if we could ask all the new members, first-time attendees that were here yesterday, if they could please stand up.
Please stand up. How about it, folks? Our new blood. You know, look at those faces and make these people feel like a part of the NASBA family. So we're so glad they're here.
Yeah, reach out to them, make them feel welcome. Take an opportunity to get to know one another. So focusing on the external, let's talk about the internal things that we're dealing with now.
Well, you know, you hear me talk a lot about and write about accountability. It's something that I know is near and dear to you and me and to Carlos as well. And, you know, so we're focused on getting things right. Mike, where's Michael Bryant, our Senior Vice President, CFO? Michael, can you stand up? You know, our folks are working so hard. If you have questions, please get with Michael. But, you know, our finance department has always done a great job. But when we stand up here and tell you all that we're working hard in our business every day to make money, you know, we used to talk more about money than what we do. And I'm trying to change that. But what I wanted to say to you is I want our financials to make it very clear to you and to the board of directors how much money and how we're spending our money directly back in support of state boards of accountancy. So you can see that we're really fulfilling the mission that we put in front of us. Michael and his staff, with the use of outside consultants, have created a new financial reporting mechanism that I think really clarifies in an intuitive way the things that we are doing for state boards of accountancy. So very important to the organization, I think, to you and to the board.
Agreed. And then the IT area. That's huge.
Well, you know, the entire AICPA, NASBA, Prometric, everyone relies on NASBA's infrastructure for the 24/7 operation as far as the administration of CPA exam. But also, you talked about the nearly 2,000 members of the registry. A lot of things that we do all are integrated into our IT systems. And frankly, that is something that we have to pay a lot of attention to. It's probably the most expensive part of NASBA. But we have decided to do a deep dive look. We've hired an interim CTO that is a high-level CTO to come in, manage the processes of looking at our people, our systems, our software, our licensing, where we're going in the future, and we are very near recommendations of how we're going to go forward into the next generation of NASBA with the cutting-edge IT that we need to have to fulfill our role in the exam and other important issues.
And the exam. Again, another thing that you're always going to hear at a NASBA conference is something about the CPA exam, and it seems like ongoing. Where are we at on the contract?
Well, Colleen Conrad, where are you at, Colleen? Please stand up. Colleen, you met her earlier, our vice president, our executive vice president and chief operating officer, has really kind of been the manager of those negotiations. Noel Allen certainly played a big role in that as well. I can tell you we have a very good contract with AICPA and Prometric. We recently, AICPA and NASBA, agreed to extend Prometric for another 5 years. They're doing a great job as our deliverer of the CPA exam, and very customer focused themselves. They're doing a great job for us. But also, NASBA and AICPA are taking this opportunity to look at some, after now almost 10 years of experience. It's hard to believe that we launched the computerized examination. Next year it'll be 10 years. It doesn't seem possible that it's been 10 years. But we are looking at our relationship and how we can now move from a pilot agreement on international, and are there anything that we wanted to change in the domestic contract. And I think we're very near having agreements on all that, so we'll have a contract that takes our relationship with AICPA on the exam, again, out to 2024. It's been a great partnership.
So, resources for boards. What are, we've got committees busy, really ginning up some things.
Well, I already talked about the work that we're doing with Dan Dustin and John Johnson in State Board Relations and Legislation. But Maria Caldwell's group, the compliance area, is doing great things. The Enforcement Committee has been working on investigator and expert witness pools. We have the new online investigator training. I'm hearing some really good stuff.
I've seen that training. It's amazing.
I've been approached by several of you. If you haven't looked at it, you should. I mean, if you have seasoned investigators that are doing a good job, it will not hurt them to go out and look at this and refresh their capabilities, or maybe pick up some new hints. But that was a promise made. Again, it's out there and it's doing a great job.
In the area of communications, we saw some of that yesterday in the orientation, just an update, newsletters and videos, brochures, annual reports. Does that cost anything?
Well, it doesn't cost them anything. It costs us a little bit. I'll talk to you about that later. But Tom Kenny and his group, Alfonso back in the communications department, we believe that NASBA needs to be more relevant, but we also believe that state boards should be relevant in your state. Do CPAs really know what you do? Do your citizens really know that you exist and what you do? Well, we can help in that communication. If you have brochures, if you have videos, if you have newsletters, if you have annual reports, if there's things that you send information to your legislature, all of those things will make you more relevant. They're time consuming, they're expensive. NASBA will do that for you the way you want it done. So this isn't something we charge you for or that you pay us for. This is something we work hard to provide that service to any state boards, and we're providing it to more and more states, and we're really getting a high quality product.
Ken, one area that we always think about is CPE, and it's a regulatory issue that we expect CPAs to be current, and one of the ways that we have of making sure that happens is CPE audits, right? So, and I know that these executive directors and board members spend a significant amount of time dealing with CPE audits. Are we trying to do anything there?
We spent a large amount of money developing a CPE rules engine that is really the best CPE rules engine in the country. And the compliance area came to me and said, we believe we can take this investment and provide yet another service to state boards of accountancy. Well, that's always music to my ears when people think that way, first of all. But we did a pilot project with the state of Missouri, and we integrated our system into a CPE audit tool for the state of Missouri and walked through their population for that pilot. Pamela Hill, Tom DeGroat, others are here. You can talk to them about how it worked, but we understand it worked pretty well. Now, I want to be very careful that we don't somehow offer up something that we don't have the capacity to fill. So we're trying to right now focus in on what are the key attributes of that system, how can we provide that service to as many states that want it, and that we can do it in an effective way. So we are increasing the size of the pilot pool right now, and we're going to try to utilize that CPE audit tool in those states, and we're going to really try to understand the cost and the capacity that we have as NASBA to provide some level of service to all state boards. But I think it's going to be take the CPA monitoring into a whole new level in the United States.
Well, Ken, we've had a fairly short discussion, just barely given you all a glimpse of what's going on at NASBA. We're gonna take a much deeper dive into a lot of these areas while you're here. Enjoy our conference. Again, thank you for coming. And
Absolutely. I think when you look through the agenda, it's going to be interesting, it's going to be educational, and we think you're going to have a great time. So everybody, thank you very much for the work you do.